Hello, Edwina Murphy-Droomer is my name, and I want to warmly welcome you to this interview in the series that is all about unleashing the audacious woman within. And oh my, have I got an audacious woman to introduce you to today. Her name is Acharya Shunya, and Acharya is a lineage-based spiritual teacher who learned the foundations of her wisdom sitting at the feet of multiple generations in India, a family that has been passing down the wisdom of Vedic knowledge for many, many generations. Some of you will certainly have heard of Ayurveda, but we have so much more to learn from this beautiful, wise woman. She is a best-selling author. She has several books to come, one of which is about to launch called Sovereign Self. And the way that she describes this has me absolutely dying to get my hands on a copy. What I do want to say is that Shunya, whilst being a fiercely roaring goddess, is quietly spoken. So this is your opportunity to please maybe press pause, make yourself a beautiful cup of chai or a warm tea, sit somewhere quiet so that you can lean in and dive in to the incredible pool of wisdom that you are about to hear. Shunya, welcome, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me, Edwina. It's just such a joy to be talking to you in Australia, me here, and we're having this divine opportunity. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's I speak to a lot of people in the States, and this idea that you're sitting there in summer and I'm in winter, it comes up. It seems crazy how opposite we can be in what's going on, but there is obviously something that's keeping us all tied together at the moment, which is COVID. But we'll let's go into that a little bit later. For now, for the women in our audience that haven't met you before, I would love you to talk a little bit about your story and how you came to be doing the work that you do now.
Well, I was born in a beautiful family in northern India, in a small holy town renowned for its holy river and for its temples. And I didn't know it then, but I was apparently born in a renowned family of teachers of the Vedas. The Vedas are the most ancient wisdom coming out of India. They're not a religion as much as a spirituality, a way of life. And they've informed all the religions coming out of India: Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism. And my ancestors have been teaching the Vedas to Indians for the last 2,000 years.
Wow.
And I am their first female lineage holder. And I was very fortunate because the Vedas are progressive, but I was growing up at a time in India where Indian culture was not that progressive because Indians had forgotten their progressive roots. But I grew up learning that I'm a goddess. I grew up learning that I'm very lucky to be born a woman. So I'm taking my being a woman and a teacher of the spiritual tradition of the Vedas very seriously. I now live in California, but I have students worldwide. I have a not-for-profit. I have a couple of ventures going where we are bringing this knowledge to the prisons in California, to important, all the places that we can take this light. We do that. And in that process, I'm meeting you here on the podcast. So delighted.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start with Ayurveda, and actually just, if for there will be people listening to this that don't have an understanding of what that is. So maybe let's start there.
Yeah. Well, I just talked about the Veda, and the Veda is like an all-encompassing spirituality, but then its medicine or its system of health and healing is known as Ayurveda. It's a sister science of yoga. Yoga, again, its roots are the Vedas. And Ayurveda sees us as not just the body, but body, mind, senses, and soul. And it asks that all of it be in harmony with nature, with truth, and with something divine within us. It says that You have freedom to worship God in any which way you like, but your own self, your own true being is a portal to something deeper, beautiful, and radiant. So I have been a big advocate of Ayurveda, Edwina, because when I was born, I didn't realize that I had a genetic condition, and people with my condition are often in wheelchairs. And I've had periods when I couldn't walk or I needed a crutch, and just for once I was in a wheelchair. But every single time using Ayurveda, certain oils I apply in the body, certain foods I eat, certain teas I drink, and its sister science yoga of breathing and postures and movement. I'm walking on my own feet. I run and plan to keep this disease at bay. So
Yeah.
I've been teaching Ayurveda. I have a school where I teach an award-winning alchemy with Ayurveda course. It's alchemical because I call it the Harry Potter School of Ayurveda. Everything I do, I try to bring a different touch. It's not pedagogical, academic teaching. It's real life experiential, the way I learned it at the feet of my teacher with my mother, pounding those herbs and making those teas and cooking that cuisine. So
Yeah.
we've been very busy recently with the COVID and everything, and we've been telling the whole world about it, and people know about turmeric, for example,
Yeah.
and that's an Ayurvedic herb, that yellow spice, and even a half a teaspoon of it swallowed every morning with hot water, for example, boosts up our immunity. So
Yeah.
that's one way my vast body of students are staying healthy, not one case reported as yet,
Yeah.
thankfully.
I'm adding it as part of a curry mix to my lunch every day. I have been for it's part of my
Excellent
winter
idea.
routine. I love it.
Yes. Yes, and turmeric can be had in any season,
Yeah.
and especially if you are in a cold weather,
Mm.
turmeric has the added advantage of being slightly warming.
Mhm.
And so, when added to the curry or even cooked in when you're boiling milk or tea, it can be added. Very useful.
Yeah, yeah. I know, having been to an Ayurvedic practitioner before, that, part of what she was doing was taking my pulse. And we talked a lot in this series about how we are energy, and, the vibrations within our body. So Ayurveda is another therapy that uses that, or another teaching that uses that as well. Yeah.
Yes, it sees us as a composite entity of three kinds of energy. And for if Chinese medicine energy is called qi,
Yeah.
in Indian medicine or Ayurveda it is called dosha,
Yeah.
Dosha. And you can be a fiery dosha and be a fiery personality, and then have to be careful of fiery spices.
Yeah.
Or you could be a watery dosha or watery energy dominant person, and then you have to watch out for being over emotional and having too many liquid foods or even soups. Too much of water content may not be good for you. Or you can be an airy dosha, and then you are very light in your walk and in your thinking. You're lighthearted, and that's great. You are the joy of every party, except that you might be a bit, there's too much movement in your mind and body, so you might benefit from some routine and settling down. So these doshas, these are not ordinary teachings. They are taught for years. For example, I learned for 14 long years before
Yeah.
I graduated as a master teacher at Acharya.
Wow.
And in my school, there are people who are studying full time for several years. So this is a deep teaching, and yet it is simple. And for the very basic teaching we provide over a year, people are recovering from even advanced disorders like multiple sclerosis and ulcerative colitis, and hard to shed weight. They lose weight. Why? Because when you're close to truth, and it looks like these Vedic sages who were the parents of Ayurveda had observed nature
Yeah.
and then translated the nature into doshas, and everything we eat, Edwina,
Yes.
from the strawberries to the banana to to a cup of milk or an egg, it too has these energies, and you can eat according to the dosha you're trying to balance, and happy results.
Yeah.
So it's really beautiful.
We talked a little bit before I pushed record about my passion for, this sort of having access to wise women that are passing down knowledge. And I feel like we have come to a place in Western society where we outsource everything beyond our immediate circle. So we want teachers to be 100% responsible for educating our kids, and doctors, somebody else for their health, rather than this passing down of wisdom and feeling like we have more control in it. So, the more that you talk about the foods that we're eating and understanding the way that our bodies work, I just am so passionate about that subject and the work that you do in empowering women to take back control of their own health. And then we get to pass that down to our kids as well.
That's right. And that's why in India and in this Vedic culture, mother is considered the first teacher.
Yes.
And in fact, it is said that if your mother and your guru are standing, bow to your mother first. So it's really beautiful.
Yeah.
And, this transmission of knowledge, lived knowledge, is really important. And probably that's what I started doing, because when I came to the West, or when I came of age,
Yeah.
and I realized like karma ensured that I no longer live in India, but I'm here. And I realized that, people are the same and they're suffering and they need this deep knowledge.
Yeah.
But once again, there's another penchant in the West of packaging everything. So I saw a very diluted version of Ayurveda, even yoga, which is a great science of the mind and spirit and self-realization, has been reduced to, very simple exercises, which is fine. It's a great door to begin with. But I was wondering how to ensure that there's transmission of knowledge, correct knowledge, there's enough time invested. And so teacher can say the whole thing, student has the patient to listen to it. So Edwina, the first thing I did many, many, many years ago was found this wisdom school. And I have a wisdom school in which I spent countless hours teaching from the original teachings and the texts. And I resurrected 200 recipes that have been around for 5,000 years that are healing. Unfortunately, my husband is an Ayurveda chef. So together he and we taught this to our Californian moms, and these recipes have entered houses now and homes, and children are growing up on it. So I feel like to ensure transmission of a culturally bound knowledge, and yet make it sensible for that era, so that you're not giving the religion or the culture, but the knowledge that's universal for all humanity.
Yeah.
It requires a certain value system where you value what is ancient and what has already worked out.
Yeah.
And so I think I would like to call myself as that kind of wise woman.
Yeah.
The wisdom, not just in how intelligent or savvy I am, or how cool I am in reinventing things and creating things, rather how wise I am in knowing where I've encountered great wisdom, bow my head to it, not dilute it, simply translate it for whichever audience I'm talking to.
Yeah.
So that's all I did. And that's why if you ask an average student, any random student of mine, I have students, by the way, in Australia too, who participate in my online programs, and you ask them, we just did a survey. Why do you choose Acharya Shunya? And they said, because of the authenticity that she brings to the teachings.
Yeah.
And authenticity is not just mine. I bring to my teachings what men and women were teaching thousands of years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that beautiful, beautiful certainty, I think, Shunya, when you feel like there is so much evidence, there is so much, you can look back for all those thousands of years and generations in what has worked. And why do we need to suddenly shift things up? Why do we need to keep reaching for something different? And I see, obviously in the world of food, this need for the perfect we go paleo or vegan or raw, or, like there's always the next trendy rather than just looking to Mother Nature for what she provides and starting there.
Yeah. I remember this student of mine telling me that, hey, Shunya, after I started studying with you, there was an interesting thing that happened. And I said, what? I said, I had this new, like a popular women's magazine, full of perfume and scents and ads. And I said, and earlier I would have been looking through it and writing up, websites that I want to look up. And I just looked at it. I was amused, but I knew that I had the knowledge in my heart because I'm happy and healthy and I've been symptom free for so many months by following something that's been tried and tested. So there is definitely, I'm not anti-invention, but I'm definitely pro-preservation.
Yeah.
For example, even in Australia, we have so
Yes.
much wisdom. You want to go there and get that wisdom before the people who are the keepers of that wisdom
Yeah.
die. And I was fortunately part of a family of wisdom keepers. So now my students are protecting me and my voice and my legacy by saying, hey, thanks.
Mm.
And I'm hoping that, my voice also continues way beyond me.
Yeah. I love the idea of being a wisdom keeper. Oh my goodness, that does something to my heart. I think you spoke before about turning to the mother and turning to, the women in our community. And, I feel like, as a lot of my audience will have heard me say, I feel like there's an almighty force that's grabbed hold of our beautiful planet at the moment, and it's being all shaken up. And it needed to happen. There was a patriarchal way of doing things that was not serving us. And now this beautiful rising of the feminine and feminine energy and wisdom is what gets to come out the other side. But we need the audacious women like yourself, the wise women, to set the example and to lead the way. So, within that space, how do we look at discontentment and anger and all these things that are coming up because we feel all shaken up and unsettled? And yeah, if we can look at that, because I know that discontentment rather than contentment is one of the things that you talk about.
Yeah, I talk a lot about contentment, but then, so when I first became a spiritual teacher, I had a period of my life when I was a disciple of my teacher. And then came a time when it was time for me to teach. And I was kind of teaching things like, we must be nonviolent, we must be discontent. And it's like, these are really great places to be at personally. And if we can live in that life, and I'm a very content person. But then when I looked around me, I saw all this codependency, women being content in abusive marriages. I saw women being content with unequal pay, women being content with being treated like second class citizens on their own planet. And then I saw that this was not so. In my Vedic teachings, I have the permission to change the teachings to suit the era or the epoch in which I have taken my avatar, like I've manifested. I can't just like go on pedagogically repeat what was fine 5,000 years ago. So I had to go back and say, look, contentment is a great value, but let's look at when is there not a time to be content. And so just talking about contentment, if our listeners might benefit,
Yeah.
there are four things we should look at, and according to the Vedas. And so they say we all humans want wealth or prosperity. We all want pleasure, joy, sexuality, all that, So let's just say money and pleasure are two categories. And the third category is we all deserve respect, to give and take respect. Give respect and receive respect. So that's known as dharma. And the fourth one is we all deserve autonomy, sovereignty, freedom to discover our own spiritual quest. It's a spiritual freedom we're talking about. That is fourth. And if you go into the nuances of the learnings of the Vedas, it say, be content with how much money kind of you have ultimately after doing what you can,
Yeah.
and how much sex or fun you have, because these things, there's a limit. Because if you don't say it's enough, we can get quite driven,
Yeah.
where it's never enough, then you
Yeah.
never have enough. But then they say, but never be content with how much respect you give and get. Never be content, be discontent with respect or higher consciousness. Keep cultivating Dharma because there's no end to it. And keep pushing the envelope for greater and greater spiritual sovereignty until you realize that you have people and you have things in your life, but you're not dependent on them. You're free. I love my partner and my son and my dogs and my garden and my students, but Edwina, who I am today, is because I'm free of all of them. And my biggest relationship is with my own self. So one is this clarity, like when to be, but yes, I became content when some years ago, we lost our house. I'm content. I'm content when I got a huge big house after some years.
Yeah.
I'm content because things and people come and go. But your value system, your respect, and your own spiritual freedom, we cannot settle down anytime soon for it. So I always keep everybody on their toes around me because I'm never giving anybody a certificate. Everybody has to prove me every day that, and I give people the same respect.
Yeah.
It's not just me, but it's a mutual thing. So that's one thing. And the happiest slaves in any prison are the people who are happy with the food they get and the recreation they kind of time they get, but they're still in a prison. And women are still in the prison of patriarchy and misogyny, period. We
Yeah.
have all, and we tell ourselves all is well, and time is up for that too, to pretend that all is well. So therefore, discontentment plays a role when it becomes a vehicle for social, personal, domestic, and planetary evolutionary agenda. Therefore, discontentment lay at the root of any person who brought about a positive change. I don't recommend discontentment, for, oh, I need another Gucci purse or another perfume, or man, I can't live without somebody holding me tight tonight. Come on, get over it. Things come and go, and relationships are also with you for a day, a week, a season.
Yeah.
Not never ever for a lifetime even. But your own dharma,
Mm.
you must fight for it.
Yeah.
So then I went back into my mythology, the Hindu mythology, because Hindu women are told all the time to be content. Christian women are told to be content. Jewish women are, I looked at all the religions. Even the Buddha, enlightened as he is, told the nuns to be content with their secondary position compared to the monks. The nuns were told, no matter how old the nun you are, if a monk who is one day old walks up in front of you, you must get up and bow to him because he's a
Oh.
man. Let not genitals, let not the color of the skin, and let not somebody's God be the deciding force for who is going to bow to who.
Mm.
So there we have to be discontent. Our work is not done. As human beings, I still feel we're still beginning. And we started with our spiritual agenda, and then we created all these religions and rules, and then we told all the women to be content with whatever patriarchic rules we were making without our reference.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I had to like drop even the agenda of my own religion, Hinduism, and go back to the Vedas, which is our old books, which say, woman, go to war, woman, drive a ship, woman, be like a river and break even the mighty boulder. So I take my guidance from the Vedas. I'm a Vedic teacher. And do you know what greater proof do you need that the Vedas were progressive? Because it is the only scripture on humanity written by women too. There are men authors and female authors of the Vedas. So I'm a Vedic teacher and I support equality and discontentment. I had to change my teaching.
Yeah.
I had to teach people not just to be content. I
Mm.
had to teach people to be discerning. Like, when is your contentment becoming
Mm.
containment by patriarchy?
Mm.
This is important. So I
Yeah.
wrote a whole book that's coming out next year called Roar Like a Goddess, and I represented the mythology which has been twisted
Yeah.
to tell the woman to be a happy homemaker and a happy mother. And I am all of those.
Yeah.
But my
Yeah.
happiness cannot be determined by his remaining content for an agenda. No,
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend it.
I think, the phrase that's coming to mind is know your place. It's interesting. I think there's a lot of conversation in the world about, breaking that belief, but it's generational, isn't it? We're having to undo many generations of that belief.
Oh, and Edwina, knowing my place, I mean, I represent a place,
Yeah.
a throne
Yeah.
on a spiritual tradition, and I was supposed to be a keeper of that.
Mm.
But I know my place in my heart
Yeah.
more than that outer throne. And now I know why my grandfather chose me over all the other boy cousins, and
Yeah.
he chose me because
Yeah.
he knew because my wisdom school, my lineage opened its door to women students even before I was born.
Yeah.
So I just have to be grateful that I had a few men who were awake around me,
Yeah.
you know. But
You,
then
I
I got
know.
married and I met all kinds of things where it was like, be this person, be that person,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
You run retreats that
Yes.
is about finding the goddess, yeah, leading the goddess. Is that?
Yes, every fall I lead a Awakened by the Goddess retreat.
Yeah,
I have books coming out more, but I lead this goddess retreats for the last 10 years.
yeah.
I have been leading, and it's a whole goddess tribe that I have created.
Okay.
And
So, what are the? I'm just curious. What are the various things that you're doing in there? What sort of activities would people be doing? Would the
so
women be doing?
the way Indians or Hindus, my people, worship the goddess is through rituals and mantras.
Yeah,
But there are three ways of connecting with the goddess. One is through the body, like bowing to the goddess, or using your body to light a candle or something like that, or place a flower to a deity or an image. The other is vocal through your mantras.
yeah,
But the third is through your mind. By observing the archetype, for example, of Goddess Durga, who's a powerful woman goddess, and then remembering I am Durga,
yeah,
and then acting with power and going and asking for your raise or telling your molester it's enough.
yeah,
So I teach the last one with some mantras, not a lot, but I teach the mental upasana or the mental way of becoming the goddess.
mm,
It's a more psychological approach, but that's the only one that worked for me because you can only light so many candles, in my opinion, or put so many flowers on a goddess deity, or sing so many songs. Ultimately, you have to roar like the goddess, and that's the name of my forthcoming book. You got to do what you got to do.
yeah,
So when I get scared, or I would get scared, and I still get scared, I just remember that Durga is not just in the sky, but she lives in my heart. And I wait till I feel it because the higher self, our inner sanctum, is connected to Mother Mary and all the gods, you name it, right? So
yeah,
it's right there. So that's the kind of, so I do a 9-day retreat, and every day we have a goddess archetype that
yeah,
we think about, contemplate, chant. And I get emails like, there was somebody at work who was always hitting at me, made me uncomfortable. I went up to him and I said, we're done. Or I so it's or I gave myself the permission to go shopping and be like Goddess Lakshmi, and I decorated my body with beautiful things, and I put flowers in my hair, and I took a walk in the grass because I had had this guilt about my body, but now I'm going to celebrate it. So these are all ways of really snapping the strings of patriarchy and women just owning their womanhood. So
yeah,
this is my contribution. There are
yeah,
so many goddess teachers, and I bow to each one of them. It's just
yeah,
this worked for me, so I teach that.
yeah. I I love the idea of having these purposeful rituals. Like I know the world that I grew up in, the Christianity that I was taught through the Church of England didn't work for me. I just felt like I was being judged by a man in the sky that saw everything I was doing wrong. And that was my understanding of God. And it's only in recent years that I've started to explore spirituality a lot more. But I know how important it is. And I think if we can look at these beautiful rituals, purposeful rituals that are not rituals like having a glass of wine at night, it's something that is actually feeding the soul, is just so beautiful.
Yeah, like one of the rituals I have for my course participants is go for a walk
Yeah.
and pick up one natural, object like a rock or a little tree branch, bring it home and consider it as a representative of the goddess for 9 days in your home.
Yeah.
And put her somewhere special, light a candle to her, offer her flowers, talk to her. Some people even knit something for her. And by looking after that object, they're really looking after the goddess who lives in their hearts, their own self. And then after the ninth day, I tell them, let it go. Go back and put it where you picked it up from nature, because the goddess lives everywhere, not just in that object. And there are some tears, but people feel so relieved. They write me long letters. But these rituals, as you said,
Yeah.
purposeful rituals that remind us of the interconnectedness of the woman's body with the divine feminine and with Mother Nature. It all comes to a beautiful circle, and that's what we really need for the new world.
Yes.
And it's a world where we'll be discontent for a while, but we know how to be content. It comes naturally to us.
Yeah.
We know how to be peaceful, but sometimes we may need to employ our anger, like with the Me Too movement. But you want to know about peace? You can ask a 15-year-old girl and she would know. But I'm not saying men are bad and all, okay? Because I have a beautiful husband now and a beautiful son, so, and a father and a lineage, male lineage. But women have these capacities, and just like men know their strengths, we should know our strengths so we can complement each other.
Yeah.
Enough of the being a victim and enough of being an aggressor, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Somewhere beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I would love you to address the fear around COVID. And, there's things that we can't control, but there's so many things that we can control. And so to alleviate that fear and the worry and anxiety that has come with it. So what are some of the strategies that you share and are teaching?
I spend a lot of the time in my backyard, or if you have a balcony or something,
Yeah.
spend time staring at the sky. And your being is like the sky, and COVID is like the cloud that comes and goes. So remember your essence of pure awareness and pure intelligence. So connect with something deeper and beautiful as an anchor. And we've already talked about turmeric, but there is this beautiful teaching in the Vedas that it says in Sanskrit, and I'll just repeat it: Yad bhavam tad bhavati. As you think, so your life shall become. So think healthy thoughts, empowered thoughts, grateful thoughts. So if your one finger is hurting, be grateful. Sure, it's hurting and you want to put some warm sesame oil on it, and maybe show it to a naturopath or a healer or an Ayurvedic Vedya if you find one. But be grateful for your 9 fingers too. So we tend to think of the glass half full a lot. And when we think and obsess on that, that becomes kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, which the Vedas have said that many thousands years ago. And I always say that when you spend time with Mother Nature, look at the sky, feel the breathe, and actually breathe and take some time for your inner sanctum. You don't know this, but you're doing amazing things for your immunity.
Yeah.
And as such, according to the Vedas, life and death is fixed. And why Vedas? Every wise person knows that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
life and death are fixed. It's just a quality of time that you have to spend. So why not focus on it. The way I lived through COVID is I don't even remember COVID. I know that I have to wear a mask outside. I know I have to wash my hands. But apart from that, my life is brilliant and lit.
Yeah.
And I've become a source of light for so many because of that. I'm not in this fear.
Yeah.
And then remember a higher power, whether you call it God, goddess, intelligence, doesn't matter. But the universe got it. Okay?
Yeah.
This big level orchestration cannot happen without a greater benefit for all of us. And
Yeah.
we already know some of it, some
Yeah.
of the benefits. So trust, try trusting incrementally. If you can't trust a human, if you can't find my voice worthy of trusting, you can trust the sun and the moon and the stars. Feel the Mother Earth as your feet go on her. There are much bigger things in operation taking care of our little human destiny.
Yeah. Yeah. Faith, isn't it? It's,
Yes.
yeah, beautiful. So I know that you mentioned briefly that you have a new book coming out, and I would love to hear a little bit more of that. Rule Like a Goddess is one a bit further along, isn't it? But gee, that's got my
Yeah.
attention as well. What's your book that's about to come out?
I'm so excited that I have a book called Sovereign Self. Um, and it is the path, these are the deeper teachings from the Bhagavad Gita and the Vedas, which are the deep, deep, deep text of, wisdom from India. And these are the teachings, how to be sovereign. And anybody who's studying yoga philosophy, anybody who wants to master their minds, anybody who wants to, um, you know, charter their own destiny, doesn't want to be sucked into attachments and aversions and then feeling the pain. And you know how you feel your mind is against you?
Yeah.
Well, I think I wrote the book because by reading that, so many people tell me that the people who read the book and gave me comments that they have their mind pre-reading the book and post-reading the book. And it is said in the Vedas that if you have wisdom, your mind becomes your friend and helps you make your goals and meet them. But otherwise, it just goes round and round and round in circle. We get perplexed, frustrated, irritated. We act from fear and anger. Then we kind of lose it. So it just slippery slide.
Yeah.
So sovereign self is really about calming the mind, controlling it, restraining it, telling it who is boss, and then finding the sovereign self within, which is a source of joy and beauty. And Edwina, I would like our listeners to remember that sometimes we think, oh, I'm so unhappy, I need to go to a therapist or a priest or a best friend, and they make me feel better. But as they give you some advice or whatever, you make yourself feel better. There is something originally whole or unbreakable, as they say in Sanskrit, avinashi, inside you, and given a chance, it reveals itself. We surprise ourselves. We recover from unbelievable darkness. In fact, that darkness leads us to light.
Yeah.
So, what is that original capacity to be, become, to thrive, to transcend, to rise above problems,
Yeah.
and even become a blessing and a grace and come back on the planet enlightened?
Yeah.
So that is the self, and it is an inheritance of each one of us.
Yeah.
We don't really need to get it from anyone. And original power, original joy, original peace lives here. Creativity too. But it's always concealed by our mental clutter, worries, habits, conditioning. So the sovereign self is a masterpiece, as the publishers are calling it, to help people unclutter their mind, see through their own drama, find out that they have choices, give the mind different direction, and then enjoy the self. Like sip your own pina colada, but you don't have to run a tab on it. It's coming from inside you.
Yeah.
I took 2.5 years to write it, but I tell you, Edwina, I've had a period of darkness in my life when my first marriage broke down, and I had all this confusion around. I'm a spiritual teacher. What should I be really talking about? Because everything is so messed up.
Yeah.
And I was the authentic, I had this desire to speak something worthy, not just like teach feel good stuff. Let's all chant mantras. Let's all like tune the chakras. You know, there's worthy people doing that. I had to find my niche. So I had to first overcome my own darkness. And that's how that book was born. And it's on pre-order now on Amazon, and on my website. People can find the page or go to Amazon and write my name, Acharya Shunya or Sovereign Self. And I hope you order it and read it and write your
Yeah,
comments.
Shunya, I will definitely be putting my
Thank
name
you.
down. And what I will do is actually put a link under our interview so that people can just go straight to it, because it just speaks exactly into what I see as so powerful. You know, what we focus on expands, you know, and our thoughts are things. And the sooner we can really get a grasp on the responsibility of what we want to do with all this, it's that's what empowerment is, isn't it? Yeah.
That's what empowerment is.
Yeah.
And the authors who gave the world yoga and meditation, their teachings were not known in the world, the original Vedas. So
Yep.
I said that's my job to do.
Yes.
Okay, I'll do that.
Love it.
Yeah.
I know it's a long way off, but I've got to hear, I mean, Raw Like a Goddess, I could have called this show that. It's just the most perfect title. Just give us a little teaser. What's that going to be?
You know, I was leading the goddess retreat last year, and it's a 9-day retreat. And on the fifth day, I was working on something else, like a blog on health or nutrition. And I'm telling you, Edwina, I felt like I had been seized. And I don't usually talk about it, but there's something in you that makes me want to confess that I really feel that a higher power made me want to write this book. And I'm kind of clued in. So I knew that my own higher being is giving me a message.
Yeah.
And I started a new file on my computer, and I started typing, and it was a book on finding our own voice. And we are meant to be roaring, not whimpering, and, being, those kind of voices. And the book just went on and on and on. And as of yesterday, no, on Friday, 2 days ago, I got a confirmation that my publishers love the book, and it's going to be a trilogy of books. And they feel it's like, so like everybody says there should be no Me Too move. Like, it's sad to have the Me Too movement, but this is a book that teaches you how to do me first, how to put yourself first, like when to be discontent, when to be content, when anger is useful, when your anger is conscious, when it's unconscious, should you go for money or should you not go for money? So I said, I have to talk to women. I said, hey, I'm going to write to women. It also includes people of other genders or anybody, even men, because in patriarchy, even men get abused if they're not manly enough.
Yeah.
Sensitive men or weaker men, or they're in patriarchy. The division is between adult and child, white and every other color, male and female, straight and every other sexual preference. It's
Yeah.
very neat and clean, and everything in between is an aberration.
Yeah.
So I'm writing for anybody who feels a misfit on the planet, because I advance, but I don't, and I'm roaring, and I want everybody to roar.
Good. Well, I want to know about it. So when it comes out, make sure you let me
Yes,
know so that I can.
I would like to. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm excited. I know you right now, you have a beautiful gift for our audience. Could you take a minute to let them know what that is?
Yes. So I have put together some of my favorite mantras. And mantras, for those of you who are not familiar, are a string of words, often in a verse, sometimes in a prose, that have been put together maybe 5 to 8,000 years ago by the original Vedic teachers or writers who were known as rishis when they were men and rishikas when they were women. And these are supposed to be very powerful. So when you chant these mantras, you change the vibration of your brain. And there's been a lot of studies. I'm not just saying it. You can do an online search on what do the mantras do for the brain. And when you chant these mantras, or even read them, because I've given authentic meaning, you will feel so blessed. And I've put together a little booklet of my most favorite mantras, and I want to share them with you. So when you go through them, you'll come across a mantra which goes like this: Asato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityor ma amritam gamaya. And under that, you will read the meaning. So even if the Sanskrit feels odd, just read the meaning because it's like a self auto suggestion. And it says, may I journey from the untruths that I have believed in this world to the truth that lives inside me. Really, uphold my own truth. May I journey from darkness to light. And may I journey from thinking I'm just a body, so I'm somebody's wife, somebody's daughter, somebody's niece, to remembering I'm the immortal spirit. I'm the groovy, cool goddess. So when you read these things, you will feel better. And I give you my blessings.
Yeah. Upping our vibration. I love it. Before we wind up, I would love to ask you to explain your name or the title that you use, because it's not something that a lot of us will be familiar with. And I just think it's beautiful. So it's going to sound so much better coming from you than if I try and explain it.
Well, my name is Shunya, which means infinity, but my title is Acharya, and Acharya is a title that is given to very few people, but people who have gone through traditional lineage-based schooling. So a lineage is where there is a succession of teachers. Teacher teaches the disciple, disciple becomes the teacher, they teach one disciple. So it's very, very held process. And minimum study is 12 years. I studied for 14 years. And not all my colleagues became Acharya. I was chosen to be the Acharya by my guru, my teacher. So I'm leading my lineage forward. And before I die, I would like to make one of my disciples an Acharya. And I'm fortunate that I've had students who studied with me for 12 to 14 years by now. And most of them are international students, but they are learning all the deep teachings with me. So I'm an Acharya, and there can be many Ayurveda teachers, but an Acharya is rarer, and I'm very grateful for this privilege.
That's beautiful. I have one last question, if you're all right to just go another minute. Each of my speakers, I'm asking this question, and that is, if you were to pick one truly audacious thing that you've done in your life, what would that be? So bold, daring, without restriction to prior ideas. Is there one thing that just comes in?
Our whole life is an audacious. I'm your
Yeah.
poster woman, lady.
Yep.
But I would say that I do, yes. Just yesterday, I was teaching an online retreat for another organization, and a woman brought up her inner child and how she was broken. And in response, I told her about my 5-year-old and how that 5-year suffered at the hands of a teacher, and I just shared everything.
Mm.
And it's audacious because I dare to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
I don't have to. But why should I keep any secrets?
Yeah.
Why should women not be who they are? So I am being I can't even think about being audacious because I feel like I'm audacious.
Yeah.
And finally, teachers like you and leaders like you, thank you so much, Edwina, understand and respect this,
Yeah.
because I've also gone through alleys of life where my audaciousness is punished, the
Yeah.
patriarchic deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now I get to be on your podcast, I get to be on the world stage, and I'm going to keep talking about it. So you and I should keep talking.
Yeah,
Because
I
I
will
feel like,
hold this platform
yeah.
for you at any time, at any time.
Mm-hmm.
It has been an
Mm-hmm.
absolute gift to have you as part of this series. And I'm so grateful to you for doing the work that you're doing. It is just so empowering. Thank you.
And thank you for such a topic. One of the reasons I jumped with joy, I'm recording podcasts every second day, was like, what? Somebody wants this topic? And then I sent you, my greetings and my questions, because thank you. Yeah. Timely conversations.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, we will continue it another time. Thank you so much. Hello, gorgeous soul. I hope that you enjoyed that interview. I know even I struggled to hear some of what Shunya was saying, but taking the opportunity to sit somewhere quiet and really listen, maybe even take the opportunity to re-listen so that you can soak up all the delicious wisdom that she had to share. What can you take away? What is an action step that is actually going to give you that ability to tap into some of what she spoke about today? I love talking about rituals. I love talking about rituals. Yes, I had to say it twice. So Shunya's ritual that she shared about picking up a gift from Mother Nature